Greetings everyone and welcome. Today we are going to be talking about our relationship with the work that we do. I have two different stories I'm actually going to be sharing with you. One that I experienced in my own life and another story that I read in a very interesting book. But both of them have to do with our correlation with the work that we're doing, okay? It's actually extremely significant and important for us to understand because often we are just kind of moving through the motions and doing work. Like I've shared in other videos, a lot of times we do hard work and feel like the busier we are, the better off we're going to be. And, not knocking it, but, make sure that we're doing purposeful work and more than anything, having meaning to the work that we're doing. And so to get right into it, the first story has to do, I had a pretty awesome opportunity to go work at a mechanic shop. A friend of mine owns a mechanic shop, and as I've shared in previous videos, cars is definitely one of my hobbies. So I jumped at the opportunity, and as I was driving to the shop, my buddy was letting me know that who I was going to be meeting up with was a little bit of an older gentleman who has been a mechanic for a really long time, and that I would probably be able to pick up a lot of useful tips and information, in the automotive world. So I was definitely excited, and as I got there, we introduced ourselves. And sure enough, it was a little bit of an older gentleman, and he was not shy to put me to work. Right away we were doing stuff, and within my first hour, I was already covered in sweat. I was tired, but it was definitely worth it. I was learning a lot of new stuff, things that I definitely wouldn't have been able to pick up on my own, or would have taken a really long time to. So I was grateful for the opportunity. But as the day continued to progress, I kept realizing that the guy I was working with, there was just something about him that was like absolutely different, and I really couldn't put my finger on it. I was really engaged with what I was trying to learn, in the automotive aspect, that I was not paying too much attention to it, but it was just one of those things that was hard for me to ignore. And so by the end of the day, I had seen this gentleman work through a various amount of projects, handling customers, logistics within the shop itself, and absolutely everything he did was conducted with poise. I mean, he never seemed flustered. I wasn't even the person engaged in everything that he was doing, and I was feeling pressure. And for him, he seemed like it didn't even faze him, didn't bat an eye, wasn't scratching his head, nothing. And so there was a few things that I really started to pick up on. And at the end of the day, I asked him about it. I was like, there's something about you. You just seem like you have like an endless amount of patience. Like it just never runs out for you. I mean, there was projects that we were working on that, some of them were really simple. 1, 2, maybe 3, obstacles for us to get through, different tools or different ways to put things back on, and we would figure it out. And then there was other projects where we were 10 plus solutions into it that were, guaranteed to work, and we were still at square one. I mean, like I said, I was definitely starting to feel like, maybe we should just leave this project here, go work on something else, and we'll come back to it. But for him, he just would turn to his toolbox. He knew where everything was, knew, an idea of how to use them, and would just start applying new tactics and strategies to it until, sure enough, 2 or 3 later, he would figure it out. And so his attention to, the work that he was doing, not getting distracted, not doing what I was thinking and going to another project and staying focused on what he was working on was pretty awesome to see. Again, it's probably something that seems very simple, but when you're going from project to project to project and just things are continuously not going your way, it was definitely, it was starting to get to me. And so I thought that was extremely interesting. Another thing that he would do was just, like I said, his patience. Customers were, kind of coming in and out, seeing where their cars were, and he's trying to balance cars that have quick fixes and can go, and then cars that also have maybe, they still have deadlines, but the customer's not sitting there. That's maybe due in 2 or 3 days, maybe a week. And, he's got to be able to balance all of that work and make sure that all of the customers are happy. And, the thing that was absolutely evident in everything he did was just his dedication to his role, to his customers, to the cars themselves. It was just something that was, just very interesting to see. And so at the end of the day, I asked him, you have like this endless amount of patience. And he kind of chuckled at it and just kind of did one of those stares where he stared off and was envisioning, I guess, all his years as a mechanic. And, he just said that he was almost forced into patience. All the years of being a mechanic, he had developed a distinct correlation between the work that he was doing and the reward that he received from that work. Both, or I should say all three, personally, for the customer, and then for the car. Like I said, he treats the car like it has its own personality, its own, spirit, and, he made sure all three were happy, himself, the client, and the car. And, that work to reward correlation, I think, is what has made him such a successful and such a skilled mechanic. And it's something that, I think a lot of us can learn from. And that's where I'll go ahead and get into my next story, which comes out of this book. It's called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. And in this book, it's definitely a very interesting read. I highly recommend it. On the front, it says the story of success. And I didn't really know what to take from it, so I read the back. And he talks about how we kind of fall into these ideas and these myths almost that successful people have a set amount of personality traits with a set amount of intelligence or IQ, also mixed with a certain amount of ambition, that you kind of mix all those things together, and as long as all the levels meet that great level of success, then the person comes out and they are then a successful being, and they move through life accomplishing all the goals and dreams that they have. And he kind of debunks all of those myths by going into more of the background, when we were born, our cultural upbringings, where our families are from, where we live, our attitude toward different works and schools, and just again, just a very interesting read. But the chapter that I'm going to talk about specifically out of this book has to do with the Asian culture and the rice paddies, which is where they grow their rice for the winter season, and so that they have food to feed the population in the community. So he gets into the chapter talking about the Asian culture and their distinct and very well known correlation with their above average ability to do math equations or mathematics. And at first he really scratches the surface, and he talks about our language alone. In the English language, as we pronounce our numbers, it can kind of get a little confusing. We have numbers like 16 and 17, but then we look at 11 and 12, and it's not 1-teen or 2-teen, it's 11 and 12. So it just adds that extra step of trying to convert something that is kind of breaking down the number into something a little bit different. And when you go into the Asian or the Chinese language, it kind of breaks down the word directly into where a number like 27 would be 2 10s 7, or 59 would be 5 10s 9. So as soon as they're pronouncing the number, they're actually already breaking the number down into where it's a little bit easier to and then move into the next step of the math equation. Now obviously it goes way past the language and into our culture, like I was saying, and he really breaks down the fact that with the rice paddies, there is a distinct difference between the attention, the patience, and dedication, like I was explaining with in the mechanics situation. They have that with their rice paddies. There is a very distinct and very serious correlation between their work and their reward. If the rice paddy doesn't produce enough crops for the population in the community, then people start to starve. And so it's pretty clear why and how it's so important. And they all work through for centuries of developing the best way to manage these crops. Again, your attention to the work, making sure that you are checking the water levels, the soil, even the way that they pull the weeds and the rice paddies has to be done very carefully so they don't disturb the soil too much. And like I said, all of this stuff directly affects the amount of crops that are produced from that rice paddy. And it's just clear to see that with all that attention, the patience, and the focus that they put into that for centuries, the habits that they bring home to their families and to their children helps them develop the patience to work through different math problems. So he talks about it. I don't remember the exact quotations, but the amount of time that Americans spend working on a math problem that has no answer to it compared to an Asian culture with the same math problem, they spend a lot more time until they say there is no answer. They sit there and they think about it very methodically. They work through it. If they can't find the solution, they continue to work at it, and they develop that patience to just continue to throw solutions at it until it's, out the window and there is no answer to it. And like I said, for us, it's maybe a quarter of the time we spend. We try 2 or 3 things. Like in my case, I was like, maybe we should leave this and go on to another problem. I probably on that same math test would have only taken a quarter amount of the time to answer the question, just because of my culture and everything that we do on this side of the world is a little bit different. But it doesn't mean that we're doomed. It doesn't mean that that's the way it has to be. We just have to increase our awareness and our understanding to the fact that some things that mean the most to us, especially, again, how important are these things to us? In the case of the mechanic, if he's not a good mechanic, or if he's turning over bad work, or if he can't fix the problem, then he doesn't get paid. He doesn't get to put food on the table. It's almost the exact same thing with the Asian culture and their rice paddies. If they don't do it the right way, if they don't have the right balance of soil and sunlight and water levels, then they don't get the appropriate or necessary amount of crops. So this is why I was telling you that it's really important for us to understand, why we're doing stuff, the work that we're doing, why it has meaning to us. And it's just a lot easier for us to get that correlation and be able to put in that meaningful work, have meaning in what we're doing. I know in one of the quotes, again, I don't know if I'm going to get it perfect, but it's something, I believe the quote says that no man that wakes up 360 days a year before dawn will fail at making his family wealthy. And, it's just that dedication to work, is that attention to details, is that meaning that they have behind it, the correlation between the work and the reward that they receive. So I want you guys to think about it. What is the work that is important to you? And are you making it important? Are you taking the time to really allow yourself to make mistakes, to handle those mistakes, learn from them, come with new ones, and just continue to move forward? Sometimes, like in that math equation, there might not be an answer. You might have to move on to something else. But are you truly giving yourself the necessary amount of time to really give it your best shot, to really feel that correlation and that attraction to what you're working on? So I hope you found this helpful. Definitely think about it. It's helped change my perspective a lot with all the work that I do, from the fire department to these videos to everything that we're going to be building on this channel. I'm not the end all be all. I'm always growing, always learning. It definitely was a humbling moment for me. Something for me to look at myself and say, maybe I can stick it out a little bit longer, work a little bit harder. Have all of those personal traits that the Asian culture and the mechanic that I was working with have. That attention, the patience, and the dedication to their work. And all of that, like I said, equals and equates out to the meaning that they attach to their work. So, in the comments down below, I would love for you to share, what you're going to be working on, how you're going to increase your effort, and, what you're going to be adding to your life. If you are doing something that's different, that's making a change, add that also in the comments so that people can see what you're working through. Like I said, we can all learn. I can learn from you guys. The people that read the comments can learn. So definitely don't be shy to add your comments down below. Other than that, make sure you share this video. You never know who you may be helping out. They may be able to help you out later on in the future. And, that's a beautiful thing. So hit the thumbs up and subscribe for the channel. That's all the time I'm going to take for today. Thank you for your time. Until next time, guys, I'm Jonathan. I'm signing out. Peace.